Hey guys, Tyler Mahoney here with TrumanLakeFishingIntel.com. It is the end of the first week of March and we are back for another edition of our Truman Lake Fishing Intel Expert Roundtable, and I am joined by a crew of Truman Lake Fishing Hammers. Starting to my right over here, Darren Langford on the end, bass fishing and crappie fishing fiend. He's got some updates from their first crappie tournament of the year this past weekend, so we'll get into that here in a little bit with his partner Hunter Bowling, who unfortunately couldn't be here because he's got a
beanbag.
Yeah, got a cornhole tournament on Tuesday nights. Jeff Falconberry right here to my right, endless season guide service, catfishing, crappie fishing. He can get you on anything, but I know catfishing and crappie fishing are his thing and his G3 boat, and he's been hammering on those catfish recently. Richard Bowling here to my left, the sage of crappie on Truman Lake. He's been putting those big spoons to work here in this last week, so we'll get some updates from him. And then finally over here, Dylan Stocking from Get Outdoors Guide Service, also another big-time crappie guide here on Truman, one of our routine contributors to the website. So we thank you guys for joining us tonight. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to Nini's Italian Steakhouse and Catering. As always, they sponsor these dinners. They provide food for us every month. It's really great. They're located down in Warsaw, Missouri. If you stop in and if you are a member of Truman Lake Fishing Intel and show them your membership, you can get a free appetizer when you stop in to eat dinner. They also do a ton of catering all over the area, so you can call them for that as well. Also want to thank Anglers Port Marine for helping to sponsor these videos. They're located right between Clinton and Warsaw. They do Phoenix, Camus, and Low boats. Richard just picked up his brand new boat. I was really fortunate. I got to be the first guide trip in his boat, and it sure is a pretty thing. We just shot another video, so if you're watching this, if you go to the website or even just scroll the Truman Lake Fishing Intel Facebook page, you will find a full boat walkthrough that I just videoed with David McCormick of the Fish 30 YouTube channel. He's one of our contributors as well on the bass side. And we did a full walkthrough of his brand new Phoenix 921 Pro XP, and he kind of gives you some tips on how he utilizes different parts of the boat. It's a really, really cool, full in-depth video, so you can kind of see, you know, what does that Phoenix look like. It's a really, really nice boat. So be sure to check out Anglers Port Marine if you're in the market for a new boat. And then lastly, the last big announcement, we have a new partnership with Golden Valley Realty Group based here in Clinton. I have actually joined their team as a realtor, so if you are looking for lake property, recreational property, homes, or looking to sell something, we've got a new partnership with Golden Valley, and that's what I'm here to help folks get that kind of stuff taken care of. And we're going to utilize the power of Truman Lake Fishing Intel to help get the word out on any listings, or potentially find, connect a buyer with a seller. So we have a really, really big platform that's growing like crazy. Last year we had over 60,000 people on the website. So it really makes sense if you are in the market to look at something or potentially sell something, to get that in front of all those eyeballs of all those people that are wanting to be down here in the lake area throughout the year. So really excited about that partnership. And you can learn more. You can see the banner ad on the website, and we'll have more coming out about that. But with that kind of concludes the announcements, and now we can kind of get into some fishing, some lake conditions. Like I said, it's the end of the first week of March. Richard and I were talking yesterday. We were really kind of getting used to that 1 week of 70 to 80 degree weather last week.
That's nice.
And here we are, and it's done a completely 180, gotten really cold out there. How has that impacted things? I know we got a lot of rain, so what are you seeing as far as lake conditions go?
What I've seen is lakes coming up a little bit. There is some logs floating down the upper grand. I've not been on the Osage arm, but the upper grand's got a lot of stuff afloating. It's not dangerous to run, but you do see stuff floating. As far as the fishing, it didn't hurt the fishing at all. I was out twice today, and the second trip, I never left sight of the marina. I caught 45 fish in about 2.5 hours. And the reason I stopped on them, I didn't know they was there. I was side skinning while I was eating my lunch. And I started seeing all these blips on my side skin, so I put the trolling motor in while I'm still eating, and it just crappie everywhere. So stopped right along the channel edge and put a whooping on them.
Yeah, well, it seems like there's been no shortage of crappie, and it's always good to know when there is debris floating down the lake. I remember last year around Memorial Day, we had a big rain, and you sent me that one picture of that giant tree.
Tree.
I think that was on the Osage, wasn't it?
Osage.
And typically the Osage does draw a lot of debris when we get these big rains. So I can safely assume, because you guys have been mostly on the Grand and the Tebow recently, but we can pretty much safely assume the Osage probably pretty similar as far as debris goes.
I've seen parts of it, and it's same way, trash.
Yeah. Well, and it's always good to use caution, especially now when we do get this. Well, what's the funny meme I always see on Facebook floating around with Missouri weather? It's like your winter time, your fall spring, your second winter, your second fall spring, your third winter. We're in that like that second winter period right now.
Fourth or fifth.
Yeah. And outside temperatures are cold. The water temperature was in about the mid 40s. You said it dropped a few degrees to the
About
low.
3 degrees, 41, 42 right now.
Yeah, so it's very good. And I know, Darren, you were out on Saturday and had a couple of. You were saved by a little hunter bowling.
Muscle man.
Yeah, well, muscle man pulled me back in the boat. I was going in.
Yeah.
I was already holding my breath. Gonna get wet.
Yeah, and, I mean, we had some crazy winds. So I know for catfish, Jeff, wind is a lot of times your friend. What is it when we have that crazy of wind? Is it your friend, or does it make things a little more challenging?
The fish still bite pretty good. It's just more challenging, fishing for them. But wind's definitely your friend. You don't want it real flat, but you don't want to get carried away either. So, but the more the merrier. Really, it just makes it a little tougher fishing.
Yeah.
More uncomfortable.
Yeah. Now, the catfish bite's been, you'd call it probably good to excellent here in the last couple weeks?
Yeah, it's been excellent. It's this time of year is really about as good as you're going to get until fall time, pending we don't have different conditions. A lot of folks, when we get calls, and people ask, what's the best time of year to come? We all have our favorite times of year to fish, but at the end of the day, we got to remember that we're fishing a flood control impoundment. So high water, the running water at the dam, current, no current, all those go into a factor. So, this time of year can be really good because we've got early spring rains coming, but the water's holding around those 50 degrees and it's starting to warm up. So it can be really good. But, when it's 102 in July and we have big summer rains and they're running the dam and the current's coming in, it can be really good then too. So, the conditions change, but you always got to remember that Truman's a flood control impoundment, so that adds more variables to whether it's very good or very bad.
Yeah. Now, what makes, so this time of year, the catfish you're looking for, are you seeing them stacked up pretty big? Are you having to move around a lot? What's your process to find them right now when you say it's the best time of the year in your opinion?
Oh, yeah. Last week when it was really nice weather out, it was getting sunny, those fish were kind of getting in some ditches and they were conjuring up a whole bunch and you didn't have to move at all.
Yeah.
You could set and you could catch 100,
Yeah.
in 4 or 5 hours. Now, with the weather jumping up and down, they're spreading out a little bit, but on these windy days, they're getting up on them flats and you still don't have to move, but you got to wait a little bit. And if you just give it a few minutes, when you get one to bite, you'll get 4 to bite. And then you get that all done, get everything put back out. You wait a few minutes, you might not have a bite for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden they start going off. And these fish, when the wind's blowing in on them flats, they're just cruising in little bunches, and they come in and they pick up baits and you hammer them, and then they kind of cruise back out. And you get set back up, eventually they'll cruise back in again. And that's kind of the pattern right now.
Speaking of baits, obviously fresh cut shad is the ideal scenario.
Yeah.
What's it like trying to find that right now on the lake?
Parts of the lake, it's really, really good. It's not hard. I've been taking my boat to church and catching bait down way on the lower lake because the upper end's real muddy and water temperature, they're just not there. There's not much shad around on the upper end. So on the lower end of the lake in the deeper water, they're still holding down there. So I just take my boat to church on Sunday and catch bait for my trips for the week.
Yeah. And when you say deeper water, are they sitting in 20,
most of the bait
30?
I'm catching right now is in 20 foot.
Okay.
throwing a big net, and some of them you'll get up in 15 to 18 feet, but they'll be from about 4 feet on the bottom, or up from the bottom,
Yeah.
all the way down.
Do you find that they're on the main river channel, or are they getting into pockets, or?
No, they're on the main lake
Okay.
mostly, just off the edge of the main river channel. Even getting up on the flats when the wind's blowing, but they're still staying out in that deeper water, not catching a lot of bait up shallow.
Yeah. Now, is that the type of scenario where you are using the like the taped net to keep it open that deep, or is that necessary?
That would be best.
Okay.
I'm not with active target. I can kind of pinpoint the more target-rich environments.
Right.
And you know, when I throw I throw an 8-foot net. So if I throw it in 15 feet of water, by the time it gets down to the bottom, it's only open 4 or 5 feet. But with it being open 4 or 5 feet on hundreds and hundreds of baits, you get plenty.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, the ditches, I mean, we talk about it all year long in your reports, you're fishing shallow quite a bit. Is that still kind of the scenario right
Well, that's
now?
my claim to fame. I love to fish shallow, but I caught catching a lot of fish out of the main channel too. I caught fish out of the main channel today. The best bite we had today was in the main channel. The fish are cruising. There's some current coming in the lake, and even though you're out on the main lake, you see all that trash coming down. That water's still moving. You might not see current, but if you can stay on that current seam, which these bass guys are really good at figuring out those seams on a tributary like Truman, but you'll find that current seam where the main channel runs through, and you can get on the edge of those seams, and it can be really good, which it is right now.
And have you heard or been around the lower lake much as far as like, is there a deeper bite going on
Yeah,
down
there
there?
is. There's a really good bite on the lower end of the Tebow. I mean, all the arms of the lake, there's guys fishing all
Yeah.
over, and I got so many friends that catfish. They're catching them on the Palm and the Osage, the Grand, Tebow. Every arm of the lake, you can catch catfish on
Yeah.
right now. And you can catch them almost any way you want to, because it's going to be this way until till probably when we start getting big spring rains and the lake starts to change a bunch. Because right now is the first that the lake's changing in months. I mean, we haven't had any rain. We've been so dry here, so it's been a very, very stable, constant. So, you know, it's as easy as it gets right now.
Yeah. Well, that's really, really good to hear. I mean, and it's, as far as looking forward the next few weeks, is it going to get better? When will it maybe level off?
I think the lake's on the rise now a little bit. I don't think it's going to come up much more than it is right now. We're almost at 708 as of today. And if we don't get any more, I mean, it just kind of depends on the weather and if they run water at the dam.
Yeah.
But it'll just get better and better as long as that water temperature keeps hovering around that 50-degree mark up
Yeah.
to 55. It'll stay good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good to know.
A lot of big fish. A lot of big
Yeah,
fish.
I'm glad you brought that up, because you've been putting some big ones in the boat, and so what's kind of the quality like overall?
A lot of big fish. We've been targeting some more big fish, going and side scanning with the Lowrance and finding small groups of 3 to 5 fish that will be, you know, I can tell that they're, you know, 20 to 40 pound fish. I haven't seen any. We did have a true 50 the other day. It was 49.86 on a scale. And so we did have a 50, but a lot of what I'm setting up on when I'm going today, we were looking for some big fish and we caught some, but only saw like 20 to 40 pounders, and you'll see 3 or 4 or 5 of them together. And if you set up on them, you're going to catch one probably in the first 15 minutes, because they're moving a lot now.
Yeah.
And so you're going to catch them pretty quick, or you're not. So then you go scan some more and try to find a big one. We got a box full of eaters, and we moved around a lot today, setting up on some bigger fish, and we caught some bigger fish that we turned back. But the quality of fish in Truman, we're not seeing great big giant fish, but a lot of 20 to 40 pound fish is what we would call big fish.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun to catch. And if you guys go to the Endless Season Guide Service Facebook page, you'll get to see another really cool catch that Jeff had recently. It was just would have been a small eater. You let it go.
We did.
But it was a piebald, piebald where
Yeah.
it was mostly white with black spots.
Yeah, it looked like a Holstein cow.
Yeah.
It's a mutated gene, an absence of cells that creates that kind of fish. You know, I've been doing this a long, long, long time, and that's probably the 5th or 6th one that I've ever caught out of Truman.
Yeah.
So it's not real common to see them. It's not uncommon, but it's not real common.
Right. Well, and it's pretty cool. You let it go, and folks have a chance to go. I mean, when they go out, you get a chance to catch one.
Yeah, it was
you
a
know?
legal fish, but as something like that, it'd be really cool to catch again sometime.
Yeah, especially when it's maybe 10, 15, 20 pounds bigger.
Yeah, that'd be really neat.
Yeah.
Somebody will hang it on a jug before then, butcher it.
Yeah. Well, switching gears a little bit to crappie. Dylan, you've been out. You've been doing trips. Tell me a little bit about what you've been seeing. You've been over on the T-boat a little bit, over on the Grand.
So Grand, back and forth. They're both good.
Yeah.
Stacked up over on the T-boat, just ridiculous. Millions and millions of fish.
Yeah.
Might have to sort through some little ones to get some decent fish, but it's fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
And you're throwing jigs primarily,
Yep. I've been using old jigs.
and these are your hand-tied
Yeah.
hair jigs that
Just
you.
hand-tied hair jigs.
Yep.
And I don't know. I don't think color makes a bit of difference.
Yeah.
Just throw it out there. I've been when I'm on the T-boat fishing those big schools, you can tie double jigs and you'll catch two at a time.
Yeah. And that's you're still doing the double rig or the double jig rig every day.
If I'm over on the T-boat, if I
Yep.
switch to the Grand, I just go to one jig because
Yep.
they're not as stacked up. I guess we're chasing bigger fish over there.
Right.
But
And in one of your recent reports that we did, we were talking the bottom jig. You forget the size. The bottom jig's the heavier jig. The top jig's lighter.
like
What's
a
your
quarter ounce,
Okay.
quarter ounce, and then the top one like a 16th or an 8th or whatever I got in the cup holder there.
Yeah.
Tie it on and flip it out.
Right. And does it matter how far apart they are, really? Or, I mean, should it be at least 12 inches from the bottom to the top
Yeah, you need
one?
at least 12 inches. Normally about 18 inches, 2 foot's
Yeah.
pretty good. Because them schools they might be from 1 foot deep down to clear down to the bottom in
Yeah.
20 foot of water.
Yeah.
So
Well, and you were talking the other day, you guys have been going into the creeks and then the main river. I mean, there seems to be no shortage of where you can find them.
nope.
I don't know if we're getting more crappie or they're just easier to catch, but it's as dumb as I've ever seen it.
I think we're getting more with
I think
the
you're getting
water's
more.
been up so many years in the buckbrush and we didn't get to catch them up spawning, so I think it's added a lot of fish to the lake.
I mean, obviously the forward-facing sonar has added a tremendous advantage, right? But sometimes when I look at this stuff, I think back before we had forward-facing sonar. I was like, we caught plenty of fish, but if there was this many fish that I was fishing around 10 years ago, I was working way too hard. They were smarter than I was, because I mean, goodness gracious, there's a lot of crappie.
Yeah, but even in them big schools like on the T-boat that we're fishing, I mean, you was over there.
Yeah.
Bruce. If you pitch that jig out there, there's 100 fish in this school, and you keep that jig up above them like you should, you're only going to see about 5 fish come
Oh, yeah.
out there that's going to eat. The rest of them just don't care. I mean, you
Yeah.
can sit and jack them and maybe catch one. So I think it's always been a lot of fish. There's probably a few more now with the high water, but now we can see that not all 100 of them fish come to your bait. Even the ones up high may not look at it, but the ones halfway down know that's there, and they'll come through the crowd and eat it. So we had a lot of fish, but I think it's always been a lot of fish, but I think that there's only certain ones in a school that's going to eat.
So I've had a lot of people ask me, and you guys can answer this better than me, but when you're fishing in big schools, do you want to drop all the way into school or hold it up?
They have
Hold it above.
Yep.
Okay.
If you drop it in them, you're going to scare some. If this was a school of fish, the top of it, run that bait down as fast as you can right there, just right across the top. But you're going to see about, with a live scope and a Lowrance, you're going to see them shaking there, the ones that's going to eat. When you see them do that, then you see them kind of flare. Oh, it's game on.
Mm-hmm.
Now the other day we was out and we had a lot of them big schools, and Dylan and I were right in there together. But a lot of those big schools, we were in 12 to 18 feet of water, and any of those fish that were over 8 foot deep, they didn't care nothing.
Right.
Nothing. And I mean giant schools. And you drop down in those fish, but we were catching all them fish about this deep under the surface. You see them fish up at the top, you couldn't get through them. I mean, they just get it so quick.
We did put a cork on.
Yeah. I mean, they get it so fast. You lose a lot of fish because you don't have fight, right? So he bites 6 inches under the surface, so he runs on top of the water, and you raise him out of the water. Well, he's going 1,000 miles an hour and
Throw
flops
the jig,
off.
yeah.
Now, before live scope and active target, I mean, were you guys even targeting those types of
Spider
fish.
rigging.
Yeah.
Two pole
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd go out and we'd all do it with side scan, make sure they're there, like in Brush Creek, whatever. And if you do this there, you'd sit them all down 8-10 feet and just cover water. And the catch limit's quick. You can do it now, but it's way more fun to catch one fish at a time.
Right.
But we used to fish that deep water, even pushing spider rigging.
Oh, yeah.
We'd fish this deep.
Yep.
Okay, so you were fishing pretty
Oh,
shallow.
you'd be going along and like your sinker just barely
Your
be
weight-
catching the water.
Yeah, your weight would be sticking out of the water
Yeah.
some days.
It's crazy.
On side scan, I mean, I know, because I'm not an expert on the graphs, but the more of a shadow there is, that the higher up they are
Yeah.
in the water column. So that's kind of how you can tell if you're using side scan how deep they are, or would you recommend to someone who's maybe
put it
not
on-
as well versed putting on the 2D
Just put on
sonar?
2D, you see them
Yeah.
and know exactly how deep they are then.
And do you run the risk of potentially spooking these super shallow schools though if you're putzing along with?
If you're using a side scan, no. But if you're going over top of them fishing and the creek over there, we're all talking at Tebow, they're getting kind of spooky. If you walk in your boat,
Yeah.
you got to see it.
Yeah.
Just walking in the boat or splashing in the water.
Throw the
Yeah.
camera lid down,
Yeah.
spook
So,
a little bit.
yeah.
The cameraman comes running in
Yeah,
front.
I definitely was guilty of that a few times.
Ours was too.
I mean, I'd be a little spooky too if 90 of my buddies left every time I heard a boat moving.
Right.
Well, you got to realize too that everybody's kind of figuring this out. Where the fish
Oh,
are when
yeah.
people start to group up. So now you got 7, 8, 10 boats in there, and if you've ever stuck your ear down to a transducer on a fish finder, it's sitting there going
Ding, ding, yeah.
tick tick tick, and you put that in the water, and it's going to send out stuff too. But you get 10 boats all in the same area going tick 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 tick
Yeah.
tick. Them fish they're not dumb, but they are. You know what I mean? And you get that kind of pressure, and they're going to be really spooky.
Yeah. No, it was funny. I mean, we watched them. Now, when we started on Monday, they weren't super. It seemed like the later it got, they got more spooky as the trip went on. But
Yeah, but it got pretty calm too.
Yeah.
The water did. So I think that was part of it.
yeah,
Starting off though, you could splash whatever, but about an hour into it, they really got spooky.
yeah, and we've got a lot more video coming from that I haven't had a chance to edit yet. But we were out shooting video with Bink spoons and just kind of showing that you could go hammer on crappie with these spoons. And we've got one video out you guys can go watch, kind of shows some of the live scope stuff. We're going to have a lot more video on that. But I know, Richard, you fished with the spoons quite a bit here in the last week and a half. And
I fished with it a lot.
yeah, and there's been no shortage of fish catches.
No, I sure want my color back.
Yeah.
Lost it.
Yep. That was noticeable. The albino color is what it's called, but it's more of like it's got a purple / kind of bluish tint to it with a white belly, and it was noticeable. That was the color.
Unreal. And we had one.
Mm-hmm.
I had one.
How'd you lose it?
Hooked a fish. I don't know if it's that. I think it's that day, wasn't it?
I don't-
It
I
might
could-
have been the next day.
Yeah.
I think it was on my trip. We pitched out to it and then set the hook on the fish, and the fish ate it. Got him halfway up, and the line broke. And you can watch that fish in the live scope doing this. And then, honestly, and then pretty soon, you can see the spoon go to the bottom. There it goes. Gone.
Yep. And one thing that we saw on the spoon, and I'm doing an article on the Bink spoons every 2 weeks in the fishing reports tab, so you can kind of read some of the tips and stuff that we've been figuring out with it on Truman. But you had to be really careful. You don't want to plunk it down into the water, especially with these fish that are super shallow, because just like they were talking about walking around on the boat or water splashing the boat, that's the kind of reaction where it could spook them. So you drop it down real gently and then let it get to the top of them. And yeah, it was.
And don't be erratic with it.
Yeah.
Not like your white bass, but these fish are lethargic right now in this cold
Right.
water. Get it on top of them. You've got your spoon, 3/8 ounces is the best one. That's what I'm going to get. And then you put a minnow behind it. That's, they're eating 3.5 inch shad right now. These crappie are. So all you're doing is making that same bait, but you can't be erratic with it. Just get their attention and pull it up, and every cast.
Yeah. Yeah. And the great thing is, I mean, you've been using one with the treble hook.
I did. I really like the treble hook better than the gold hook on it.
Oh, really?
And I've been tipping it with a minnow.
Mm-hmm.
Now on the T-bow where we was at was catching them super shallow. I've been doing it on the Grand Arm. Yeah, my trip the day after we went absolutely put on a show with it. That's what we caught every single fish on for 2 trips that day.
Yeah.
but the fish were down about 18 to 22 feet, so we'd pitch out to them, and that, it takes a little bit to get it down that deep, 3/8 ounce with a minnow. Sometimes it would get within 5 feet of them, and you'd see that fish shake and flare. And when they flare and kind of back up, hold on. I think I had personally on my limit, I had 10 pitches in a row out 20 feet, get down to them and catch them. It was that good.
Wow.
But it's something they don't see much.
Right. Right. Well, and they make the one with the treble, they make the one with the single gold Aberdeen hook, and I haven't really gotten the one with the treble hook snagged a whole lot, so I haven't been able to test really how easy it is to get off a snag. But with the single gold Aberdeen, it's pretty easy. Just kind of bounce your rod tip a little bit, and that spoon will knock that hook off of whatever you're snagged on.
99% of the time.
Yeah. So that's really, really handy. The treble hook probably works just pretty good, but you got 3 more hooks to get stuck on, so it might not work as well.
It still falls off good. The only thing, the difference is that little bitty treble hook, you don't miss many fish with it.
Right.
A lot of times that fish has got it. If you're in a tournament, say, if you got the treble hook, you're going to kill some fish because they hook them deep.
Right.
Because when they hit it, it's on a dead run.
Yeah.
And it's harder to get a fish off a treble hook than it is.
Yeah.
Pliers.
Yep. We did have to pull out the pliers.
We had to several times.
But
Because when they eat it.
it's really fun. We got some really cool video. I mean, there were several times where, we were chasing pretty just good sized eaters, and Richard would hook into a big one, and there was one in particular where he's like, oh, this is a pretty good one, and he's pulling it up, and he gets up to the water, he's like, oh, get the net, whatever, grab it, and I didn't even have the camera ready. I had to grab the camera, get it down. It was pretty fun, and we had a really, really good time. So we're hopefully going to have a lot more of that video from that trip, and a lot more video throughout the summer of that kind of stuff too. So, and then Jeff, I know you had a video trip on crappie recently.
Yeah, I did. I had old Scott Turnage was posting on Facebook. The old G3 sportsman.
Mm-hmm.
He got to where he was posting on Facebook, which was better, Brawny or Bounty paper towels. And I immediately called him, and I was like, "Dude, you gotta get out of the house.
Yeah.
You've been cooped up too long."
Yeah.
And so he came up, and I had a catfish trip and cleaned a bunch of catfish. And he said, well, I have 4 crappie fillets left, so I need some crappie. So we went over, and Richard was cleaning fish on his trip. We come pulling in. He just kind of gave me the old mountain man. See that mountain over there?
Mm-hmm.
Head that way. And we took off up in there, and it was fun. I went up on Scott about 12 fish to nothing pretty quick.
Yeah, we watched that
in that video. And, but he made a strong comeback. But I had some trolling motor battery problems, which I got fixed now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we only had trolling motor for about 20 minutes. But we could shine those fish with active target. And I'd side scan, see what tree they're on. And then I'd get about 2 or 3 trees back from it, tie off there, throw the trolling motor down, point it at that tree that I just side scanned. And we could see them fish, and we stayed back off of them. We casted to them and just warm slick.
Yeah.
Warm slick. It was fun. A lot of fun.
And in that case, they were, because I know a lot of the fish you guys have been chasing have been open water fish, but these were actually the more
These were
fun
on
to get
trees. Yeah,
around
these
the
were
trees.
on trees. The open water fish, we caught some open water fish early, but it seemed like those schools of open water fish would move around quite a bit. Like once you catch 2 or 3 of them, you had to kind of keep following them around. And so we didn't have a trolling motor.
Yeah.
So we were side scanning groups on trees.
Mhm.
Where they just kind of stay there, and then we'd tie off and throw to them at 15, 20 feet, 25 feet out, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, and if you guys want to watch that video, we have it's on YouTube, but we have it shared on the videos page of the Truman Lake Fishing Intel website as well. So you just go to our videos page there, click it, and you can watch it right there. So really good show, full fishing episode.
Yeah,
so,
Scott and I caught our limit, and it was so good that we let the cameraman come up and catch his limit.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So,
Well, and Darren, you guys had your first tournament of the year.
Yeah, finally got that out of the way.
Had a-
Thank goodness.
Had a top 5 finish, and I know you guys would have liked to have come out on top, but it was really tight. I mean, top 5 guys within a half pound, and all of you guys weighed over a 12-pound bag.
Over 12-pound bag. It was really good fishing. A lot of big fish caught. About £1.85 average won it.
Mhm.
We had £1.75 average,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite a bit in crappie, but it's still, that's pretty good stringers of fish.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we was where we was fishing, it's off limits Monday through Thursday prior to the tournament. Well, there was no practice for anybody because it was froze before that. The whole upper end was, you couldn't even get on it. So it unthawed. You know, we had an hour. We got to practice an hour. So, but no, it was fun. We actually caught, Hunter says 50 to 75.
Yeah, we put that.
You know-
I did a report with Hunter, and he said 50 to 75, but it sounds like
I'm not real sure how good of grades he got in school.
very good.
'Cause I know I was wore out from culling. I know we
Yeah.
did a lot of culling, a lot of weighing.
Yeah.
We caught a lot of fish. There's fish everywhere. Some things that I noticed that kind of tipped me off is I went out an hour. I went an hour to practice, and I went out, and really I was just looking for where they were positioned in the creek, and there really wasn't much on the main lake. That's because I checked, and I went on in the creek, and there was fish just pretty well everywhere in the creek, but the bigger ones were about at the halfway back to the mouth. They weren't all the way in the back. So that's where we went and started, and it didn't really dawn on me that, you know, they just probably moved back there that afternoon because it was pretty warm that afternoon. Well, the guys, we watched the second place team, and they only lost by a tenth of a pound, and they would have probably won, but they run out of trolling motor batteries at noon, which is a lesson learned. You change your trolling motor batteries, every year or two, or you're going to run out. And they stayed on the mouth, and they had their fish by 8:30 and never caught another keeper. The fish left, and then we really didn't start catching them until noon,
Yeah.
and we were inside the creek. So I think them fish they were out, then moved in as it warmed. It didn't warm up a bunch, but it warmed up some. Plus the wind, there was a little bit of a breeze Saturday, somewhere around 40.
Yeah.
I was gusting over 30, but the straights were 25.
Right.
So it was kind of tough fishing for the first one. I know we were both wore out bad, wore out standing up there fighting that. I mean, I don't have to fight as bad as Hunter. Hunter only weighs 85 pounds. That wind, I had to hold him a few times.
Yeah.
He just leaned against me, but he don't block much wind for me.
Right. Now you guys actually fished some really shallow water at points.
Yeah, we actually did. I was kind of surprised with the lake being froze just 4 days before that tournament that the fish were that shallow. We caught most of our fish 5 foot, anywhere from 3 to 6 really. So, but most of them, our bigger ones, come at 5 feet. And they were on any kind of most of them creeks up there in upper end silted in. So if you can find the old channel, it might be just 6 inches to a foot deeper than what's silted. And they were right on them bends, right where they should be. The bigger ones were. Now there was fish on every tree. It was unbelievable how many was there. Matter of fact, it was so windy, we were fighting it so bad, we were taking waves over the front. I got to throwing a cork. Just fan casting a cork out from the boat, caught several that way.
Wow.
You just couldn't fish. I mean,
Right.
it was tough to fish. So, but 12-pound stringers, that's pretty good.
Pretty
We
good
got
stringer.
Crappie Masters coming in 2 weeks, and they'll take 14-pound stringers. That's what it took last year to win it. And fish will be in that next phase or getting closer, and they'll take big stringers.
Yeah. Now you guys were throwing jigs as well. I know Hunter said he was fishing with one of David Townsend's, just another crappie bait company, those little
Yeah,
wigglers.
little wigglers.
And he
Those
said
things are impressive.
and he said they were running to get it.
The little dinky bait, and I mean, them things would run 2 or 3 feet, just
Yeah.
straight over to hit it.
Yeah. Well, that's really freaking cool. And I haven't actually had a chance to use one. I assume it's the same toughness as what he makes his other baits out of.
Pretty
or-
well fished the
pretty
same
tough.
one all day. But the only thing he really had to change, he had to change his hook once.
Okay.
He had to change his jig head because the hook got wore out. I mean, that's why I said he caught 50. I mean, the hook started bending on every fish, so it was about enough.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty wild. So, obviously, it's been really good. What are the expectations moving forward? What are they going to do? There's some on the main lake. They're getting into the creeks a little bit. What are the expectations moving forward here over the month of March into April?
The creeks are absolutely going to be full of fish from the mouth to the back of them, and it's going to be pretty easy to catch a limit of fish. Every single creek on the lake is going to be full of fish.
This is lake wide. It doesn't matter if you're on the Grand, the Palmy, the Osage. Find you a creek,
You got it.
get in it, whichever ramp's
Spider
closest.
rigging, throwing a cord, cast and drag. Ain't gonna
Yeah.
matter.
You know, the only difference is if it's dirty, they're going to be a little shallower.
Okay.
If it's cleaner water, they're going to be a little deeper, but they're going to be full of fish.
Yeah.
I guarantee. They're just looking for a place to. They're eating the shad that's coming in there, and they're getting ready to go spawn. And
Yeah.
that's where they're going to spawn.
Yeah. Yeah. So get on Google Maps, find the closest ramp to you so you can save some gas money, which is
Yes.
going to be pretty important here moving forward. So, no, that's really, really exciting. Now, we'll probably be talking about this more on the next one, but when do people need to start thinking about the spawn for all the folks that are all about the spawn? When is that?
Third week of April.
Third week April,
Okay.
turkey season.
Yeah.
Yeah, third week of April. But you know, when the days get long and close to 14 hours,
Yeah.
and the water temperature's anywhere around that 60 mark.
Yeah. Okay. And as far as catfish go, what's the expectation moving forward?
Keep trying to clean them out of this lake. Get rid of them all. No, it's gonna get good. Spring rains will get here. Lake, probably gonna rise. So you'll be current fishing before too long. And,
Yeah.
And it's going to be good, and not just. I mean, I know this is Truman, but Lake of the Ozarks will get fire too because they'll get them spring rains. They start running the dam. River's going to get good, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, will the catfish move up in the creeks pretty good
Oh,
as
yeah.
well when those water inflows
Oh, yeah.
start coming in?
Yep, creeks, rivers, streams, all of it.
So wherever that water's coming in, you can just post up
Yep.
and you're gonna catch. Now,
Points is another really good thing. These ripraps on these bridges, in the springtime they'll get on that riprap when
Okay.
the current's coming around the bridges. So
do you find that the blues get back in the creeks as much as the channels? Is it
they'll all be
mixed?
back in there.
Yeah.
They'll all be back in there, but yeah, the blues will get in there just fine.
So if you don't have a boat, this could potentially be one of the best times of the year to catch them from the bank.
If you don't have a boat, you should have been fishing from the bank for the last month.
Okay.
Yeah, anywhere the wind's blowing in.
Okay.
It's a really good time to catch them. But yeah, from now until, first part of April, middle of April is going to be really good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and the other thing we have to look forward to, we did get our first bass report put up for the year last week. I was talking to Steve Blake, and he's had his boat being worked on, but he's over at Sterrett Creek Marina, powwowing around with some of the folks there, and got some pretty decent reports of a jerkbait bite last week down there around the Sterrett Creek Islands. Darren, I know bass fishing is something that you do a lot of. What are your expectations? Obviously, Lake of the Ozarks has been on fire. I mean,
Always is this time of year.
yeah, one of our contributors, Brock Rinkemeyer, just won the MLF Toyota Series down there. Got himself a pretty good payday, and
Yeah, not bad.
he won by 2 pounds. I can't remember, was it 58 pounds and some change?
Just shy of 60. It was right at 59.
Okay.
Just shy of 60, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a three-day
Three-day, yeah.
tournament. And I mean, a lot of local Truman guys
Yeah.
that were in the top 10.
Yep.
So that was really exciting. And what are your expectations? Obviously, it's kind of hard to compare Truman to Lake of the Ozarks, but what are your expectations here for the bass over the next month on Truman?
Well, looking at the weather, it looks like it's going to start warming up here after this next little front we get this weekend. Looks like we're having a pretty cool front this weekend, but next week looks into the 70s again, back to spring. And it won't take many more days and the fish will start firing up here pretty good.
Mhm.
40 degrees is a pretty good time to start
Mhm.
here. We're getting real close to that, 41, 42.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's in the lower end,
Yeah.
which takes a little longer to warm up. You get that clear water down there. The upper end, you need to get it up there a little bit more, 50s, before the fish will really, you can start catching them. They're still scattered pretty
Yeah.
bad in the upper ends. But that lower end, a jerkbait bite will be coming on. The water's a little clearer,
Mm-hmm.
so you get that jerkbait bite. The lower Tebow is always a good place.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere around Osage Bluff Cove's a great place.
Yeah. Now, a lot of the Lake of the Ozarks guys, at least in the Toyota series, they were throwing the A-rig.
Yeah.
Is that something that I don't ever hear very many people throwing that on Truman.
Well, it'll get hung up, and it's
Yeah.
$35 when it gets hung up, and
Right.
you're not getting it back out.
Right.
Now, if you throw it on braids, you can straighten the hooks,
Mhm.
but it takes fairly clear water to throw the A-rig, and a lot of times Truman doesn't have that.
Right.
That lower end of Lake the Ozarks is really clear, and it's open.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing a lot of more open fishing. You're fishing brush piles and stumps and big rocks still down there, and really the top 10. The front forward-facing sonars changed bass fishing too.
Mhm.
It just started. It's about 3 or 4 years behind
Mm-hmm.
crappie, but it just fired up. And I would imagine from just the guys I know that finished in the top 10 there, all 10 of them are forward-facing
Mhm.
sonar guys.
Throwing A-rigs.
They're throwing A-rigs, and they
That's-
throw the A-rig because they can cast it farther and they
And
can
see
see
it.
it.
Mm-hmm.
It just, then they can fish it faster.
Right.
Now sometimes they won't bite the A-rig. You got their jerk bait. There was a lot of fish caught on a jerk bait. So if they threw the A-rig a few times and the fish didn't react to it, they'd pick up the jerk bait and throw it over the fish.
Yeah.
But that A-rig just allows you to move faster.
Yeah.
And you can cover more water and get right down on that brush pile.
Yeah.
Throwing a bait, this
Yeah,
big
you can see it.
at 80 feet.
Right.
You can see it coming.
Yeah. I know Dave Ryan was fishing the Anglers in Action down Lake of the Ozarks over the weekend, and I think they pulled in 14 or 15 pounds on a jerk bait. But it sounded like a lot of the guys that had done really well in the Toyota series throwing an A-rig didn't quite have the same production this go
Yeah.
around for some whatever
Changing.
reason. Yeah.
Plus them fish, you take 150 boats of guys like that they've been there for a week
Right.
and pounding the snot out of everything. I
Mm.
mean, they caught a ton of fish.
Mm-hmm.
The fishing was dynamite.
Mhm.
And, they're just hunting. They're just cruising around. I mean, I heard one guy talk about, he had a school of 20 found. And every day in practice, he'd go check, and that school stayed there, and he had 20 bass in it. And he said he fished it 2 times, caught 2 5-pounders on the A-rig. So he left it, and he went back in the tournament every day and never got them to bite.
Mm.
They were still there.
Yeah.
He'd throw over the top of them, throw and throw and throw, and he said they just never would bite.
Yeah.
So that happens too. I mean, you're not going to catch them all.
Right.
But you can do it on Truman with the forward-facing sonar. There's just not that many people still do it.
Right.
It hasn't
Yet.
fired up yet.
Yeah.
But Brock, Jelinek, them guys like that, they're changing that.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be if you want to compete. And that's part of the reason I crappie fish is, I learned a lot about live scoping, and I've taken a couple of the bass guys, and they can't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd go, there's one, catch that one, there's a big one, there's a little one, I don't even see it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, but they're figuring it out,
Yeah.
and it won't take them long.
Yeah.
Well, Jason Christie just did it at the Classic, and he was basically crappie fishing
Yep.
and caught his bass because he was just throwing a little, I say little, but if little for bass, but it was just like a crappie jig almost, like a big baby shad or a
Mhm.
shad pole type bait on a 1/8 ounce head or whatever it was with a spinning rod, and just won the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah.
Forward facing sonar with little bit.
You're going to see the weights just like you did in crappie. You used to take 10 pounds to win in crappie. It takes 12, 14 now to win. And bass is going to be the same way. You used to take 18 pounds, 20 pounds to win about any tournament. It's going to take 22,
Right.
25 to win a single day.
Right.
And it's just what it's going to do. And if you're not fishing it, and if you don't learn how to fish it, you're not going to fish competitively.
Yeah.
You're not going to win.
You're not going to win.
So, for the guys that don't have it and aren't going to learn it, as far as what they need to be doing, the type of stuff they need to be targeting on Truman here in the next few weeks, besides a jerkbait, is there any other kind of bait that you'd be throwing? And what are you looking for this time of year are you looking for a rocky little
Yep.
point?
Big rock, bluff ends,
Okay.
channel swings.
Okay.
That's the things you want to look at. You can fish, it can be main lake or in the big creeks, but
Mhm.
look for bluff ends with bigger rock on them. And I still love fishing jigs this time of year.
Mhm.
swim jig or something.
Yeah, jigs just work great. Just get it down there in them rocks and just work it right along the bottom. That's a great bait. And Lake the Ozarks, I know some of them, the Davis brothers, they fish down there all the time, and they're jig fishermen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that's what they fish, but I'm not sure they got anything else in their boat.
Mhm.
But they always finish in the top. And it's not that you can't win. You can still win without it. It's just going to be a
For
lot
now.
easier
Yeah.
with it.
On the jigs, I mean, and even on the jerk baits on Truman, is there any type of color or pattern of the bait that seems to do better than others this time of year?
Well, on Truman, the fish normally aren't as deep.
Okay.
It's just like the crappie. The crappie don't get as deep. The water's just dirtier and it's warmer and higher in the water column. So you just have to fish the 110, or something like that. But if you get on Lake the Ozarks somewhere it's clear and you're fishing forward-facing sonar or not, you might want to fish like the 110 plus, which is just just a longer build jerk bait that gets down just a couple more feet. It'll get you down there a little closer. That's the things you want to do. You don't have to fish that on Truman. You don't need to be that deep. I know guys that do when the water gets real clear, but you can fish that. You can fish Lucky Crafts, but on Truman, I always fished something with chartreuse on it, sides. Chartreuse sides, blue back, black back. I like blue back when it's sunny, black back when it's cloudy. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, well, that's what a lot of people do, but that's what I like.
Yeah. Is there, what's your philosophy on the jerkbait cadence? You read all these articles about all these cold, clear water lakes, you gotta cast it out, wait 10 seconds. Does that apply on Truman?
Yeah, that's what makes you a good jerkbait fisherman.
Okay.
That's all you gotta figure out on jerkbait.
Okay.
What kind of cadence?
Yeah.
I mean, I fished beside guys where I didn't catch a fish. They caught them all. And I'm like, man, I need to change baits. No, I just need to get the cadence.
For that
Right,
time.
For that time.
Because it's going to change.
Yeah.
There is no magic formula.
I fish pro-ams, and a lot of times you get them amateurs that they're still good fishermen, but they tend to work it faster. Because they're trying to get it more cast in behind you.
Yeah.
So they'll work it faster. And I've had times where they're just yanking them one after another. And I'm up there going, shh, shh, shh. Wait, wait, look at the bird. and, shh, shh. And they're back there going, bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
Just waiting a couple seconds, and all of a sudden, got one. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's killing me.
Get
But
whooped in the back.
But on average, this time of year, you think a slower cadence is,
yes, and as the water's warming up, though, you can start picking it up.
yeah.
So
What are you laughing at?
No,
over
no, this text.
here? Okay.
It's been an ongoing text for about a month.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's good to know. Obviously, the lower lake sounds like kind of the target area for the jerkbait bite.
The
and
bass
it's
bite
a
will get.
timing.
Yeah.
And you heard all them guys that finished good in that Toyota series, and most of the tournaments we've won this time of year, it's timing. We went one particular tournament, we took off one morning, it was like 30 degrees. It was pretty cool. We took off and we went up in a creek, and it was going to warm up, but we just kind of cruised up. We didn't blast off. I mean, it was just cold. We wasn't going to do it. We went back there and we fished around this creek, little bluff in, went over to the other side to another bluff in, fished it. We fished it 4 times. Well, first of all, we're kind of getting old and we're kind of wussies when it comes to running in the cold, so we didn't want to run yet 'cause it's still cold. 10 o'clock, bam. Fished that same bluff in, we fished for 3 times. Our 4th time through, we caught 21 pounds.
So what was it about that?
Just
That's
a
when they
little
came in.
tickle of breeze, and it warmed up maybe 1 or 2 degrees, and boom, they just kicked off. It's just the way it is. It's in springtime fishing.
Yeah.
You might make 100 casts and not catch a fish, and then all of a sudden you catch one every cast, and you're like, wow, what happened?
Yeah.
It's all timing. That's what you always hear everybody say. It's timing.
Yeah.
You very rarely hear anybody in the spring catch them all day long.
Yeah. Well, and as far as tournaments go, there's not usually very many tournaments on Truman until, April. It kind of starts a little bit,
Yeah.
and
A lot of times Truman's froze, or
Yeah.
it's hard to
Yeah.
get any out. Lake the Ozarks pretty dominant this time of year. It stays fall most
Yeah.
of the year. It
Yeah.
don't freeze very often.
yeah. Well, I know we got USA Bassin coming in March. If you go to the tournament tab on the website, you can look at the details there, the numbers there. You can call them, see how you can compete if you are interested in that. I think that's the first bass tournament on Truman this year that I know of. So that'll kick us off. We'll see how it goes.
That'll be about right. That'll be about the time everybody's throwing a cork and a jig at the bank for the crappies and just whacking bass. yelling, complaining about them.
Yeah.
Fish right beside them.
Yep. Well, and then a few other things that we were going to mention. Dylan, you were talking about this earlier. Tally Bend has pulled their docks and, I mean, everything.
Everything, bathroom.
Bathrooms and everything, yeah.
So, I guess beware of that. What's the story? Because I haven't heard. Is that the Corps is not managing that ramp anymore? Is
Right.
that the deal?
Right.
So who's managing it?
Nobody.
Nobody.
It'll just be a ramp.
So once it gets destroyed, it's not going to be...
I guess. I don't know. That's it.
Okay, well, there you have it. If you guys have followed us on Facebook, you've seen pictures, and the Corps has been sharing pictures. They've got their automatic pay stations at the ramps that they are still managing. So you can pay with a card there. They did take away the cash boxes, I think,
Yep.
from what I saw.
Yeah, it's card only.
Folks have been commenting, asking.
You can buy your yearly pass
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah,
I
But
didn't
you
know
still gotta
I
go
didn't
to
know-
Warsaw.
You still gotta, but you can't get it at Warsaw, so you gotta go to the campground. They still don't have the doors open.
I don't
Warsaw.
understand this.
I didn't either, but
Because I got done with a trip the other day and I was like, man, I just haven't made it down to the Corps
me
office.
too.
So my trip was reading the deal, said, oh, you can buy your annual here. I was like, well, that's going to save me a trip to the dam. Put my card in, get my little ticket, and it says, take this to the project office within 7 days. Like, I still got to go to the dam.
so
But you still can't get in the dam.
And
That's what I
it-
don't understand.
it's like a little tag that you hang in the...
It's a receipt. It's like a receipt. No, it's not a tag.
No, yeah.
But what do you get for...
The tag's what they give you at the,
Yeah, at the
Corps.
project
Yeah.
office.
yeah.
So I guess I'm confused why they couldn't just mail that once they get the...
That's what I thought it was going to be. It was like my duck stamp. You buy
Right.
your duck stamp
I
electronically.
thought
And
we
then,
were gonna make it easier, but we
Yeah.
didn't really.
I thought I was saving a trip to Warsaw.
I don't know, Corps of
And you can
Engineers.
get them at the campsites, but like I said, none of them's open.
Mm.
There's nothing open. You can't get into Corps.
Yeah,
You can't get into the Corps building in Warsaw right now. I tried.
yeah.
So I don't know what I do when my 7 days is up.
Well, I've already paid $40, so my ticket's in there, and I'm not buying another.
That's the way I
Yeah.
think. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Right, right. Huh,
And not everybody's got a card, so what them people's gonna do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of a, I don't know. It's a soft spot with me because just like that closing down Tally Bend, or closing down Sparrowfoot Campground, or closing down this, they took the dumpsters out because people was dumping their personal trash in there. I get that, okay. Well, now we got this little trash can, people throw crap out, whatever. Then you go up and you pay to use the boat ramp, and the crapper stinks, the weeds are all through the cracks of the place, it's just like, what am I paying my $40 a year for? I get that.
For a yearly pass, and then they pull the walkways out at the end of the
Yeah,
summer.
it's an annual pass, and then we only have
Yeah,
docks for
until
this long. And if you ask the Corps, it's not for the fishermen, it's for flood control and hydroelectricity, so why are we paying to launch a boat?
Right.
I don't know. It's there's no good explanation that I've ever heard.
And then
Yeah.
there's holes in the parking lot you gotta dodge. And
Yeah.
So, Tally Bend, you don't have to pay to use now.
No.
So I guess...
It's just the road in the water now.
Yeah.
That's all
Okay.
it is.
But you have you pay at Sparrowfoot, then you have to buy a Bucksall tag to launch at Bucksall.
Yeah, that's
That's
Bucksell's.
Bucksall's. You have to
Yeah.
buy a Sterrett Creek tag to launch at Sterrett Creek. Osage Bluff tag to launch at Osage Bluff. I mean, you can have $150-$60 wrapped up in launching your boat pretty
Jeez.
quick.
And that's only gonna be a gallon or two of gas for them.
yeah, that's very
Couple
true.
gallons of gas.
Wow. Well, so you guys know the drill. We just talked
Yeah.
about it. Couple other things I forgot to mention earlier. If you guys are not on Facebook and you haven't checked the videos page of the website, we announced our fishing trip giveaways. We got one more coming. It's going to be a new drawing because the person won't call me back, so I'm going to have to draw someone else, and it's going to be going out with Dylan. But we've drawn the winner for Richard, for Jeff, and for Kyler. So we got one more to post for Dylan. If you haven't seen those, go watch them. Luckily, those winners all call me back, so they all know they won. But you never know. This next one, you might be the winner. And the way that you get entered into those is, we drew 2 members that were just paid members. So just by you being a paid member of the website gets you an entry in the fishing trip giveaways. You can also get an entry by going to the Facebook page, leaving us a Facebook review, or going to Google and leaving us a review on Google as well. So that gets you an entry. And then every single fishing report that you submit as a member, if you guys log into your account, you'll look over in the main menu, there's a spot where it says submit your fishing report. Every single member submitted fishing report that you do, you get an entry. So that's where you can really up your odds. Not a lot of people knew about that last year, and there was one guy in particular that submitted a lot. So, here he has 25 entries, and the next closest has 2 or 3. So that's where you can go and get a ton of entries and have a chance at winning one of these giveaways. We're going to continue doing that this year. Probably going to add a couple more guys to that list, so we're probably end up doing 4 or 5 fishing trip giveaways for 2022. So that's that. If you're watching this and you've got a paid membership that expires this year, be sure you're checking your account. Go in, make sure your payment information is updated. Otherwise, it'll fail, and then you got to go in and redo your order deal. So if you want a seamless automatic renewal, go make sure all your billing information is up to date, and that your credit card is still in there and all that good stuff. So just a little website housekeeping on that front. But as far as everything else, I know we covered a lot of really good information. We appreciate you guys for watching. If you know someone that you feel like could get a benefit out of this information, let them know. Tell them about Truman Lake Fishing Intel. We're trying to grow as much as we can, and the more members we have, the easier it is for us to keep doing this every month and all the fishing reports all the time. So your support means the world, and we thank you very much. To kind of conclude again, Darren Langford, Jeff Falkenberry, Richard Bowling, Dylan Stocking, they all have profiles on the website. If you want to go click and look at those, it's under the experts tab. You scroll down the homepage, you can read about their bios, their experience fishing Truman Lake, and get a hold of their contact information, get a guide trip booked with these guys. So be sure to check them out as well. But that's all I know. So until next time, thanks again for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.